Hi everybody, welcome to Outlaws Dies. I was talking with a customer the other day and I came to the realization that I do need to apologize to some people because even though I've been in scrapbooking for over 20 years, I always forget sometimes that not everybody is familiar with everything that we do. And so I realized I needed to show people and teach people how to actually use our products. And I know that sounds kind of strange to some people because, you know, you've been with Outlaws Dies for a little while now, and or you've been with Kiwi Lane and you know how those systems work. But not everybody does. So I kind of need to backtrack a little bit and give a basic 101 on how these dies work and the way that they're designed. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is I'm going to work with one of our newer sets, Serenity Waves. Very simple, very easy, basic dies. And I'm going to show you how a basic layout comes together. Okay, and the way that this works is in order to use our dies, first things first, you have to have a die cutting machine. Okay, there are plenty of die cut machines on the market. This is the Cuttlebug. You cannot purchase this one anymore, but a lot of people do still have this in their arsenal, or they can pick it up on eBay or pick it up in Marketplace or whatever else, because it's a really great portable die cutting system. The only thing that you absolutely have to have with any of the die cutting systems, Sizzix, Gemini, Cuttlebug, We Are Memory Keepers, any system, the Stampin' Up! System, the Close to My Heart system, whatever system you're using, what you need to make sure of is that you have what's called extended plates. And what extended plates are is the carrier system that works with your dies, with your die machine. And you need to make sure that it's at least a 12 to 13 inch system, because it has to be able to fit, the entire die on its platform in order to get a good clean impression and cut. Okay. And then you'll need obviously your acrylic plates that you're going to be cutting into. Now, die cutting 101, have one plate that works as your cutting plate and another plate that works as your top plate, and keep this plate clean and free of cuts. And there's a reason for that. When you're using your cutting plates, your machine is going to, it's slicing into this thing, it's putting grooves and cuts into it and everything else. And what's going to happen is some cardstocks are going to feather, and they're going to impress parts of their linen and parts of their fibers that they're made from into this plastic. And if you're using this as a top piece over another sheet of paper, it can transfer this and emboss it into your papers, and you don't want that. Okay, you want to have a really nice, clean, smooth surface that you're using as your top plate. All right. So that's the starters. The second thing is different machines have different openings and widths. And what that basically means is there's only so much you can cut. With the extended plate, you can get a 13-inch cut, which means you can cut the 12-inch borders, which is what you need. But for this machine, for example, I only have an opening that is, I believe, 5.5. No, this one's 6. That's 6 inches wide. Okay. This regular Sizzix is roughly the same size with the extended plate. The Sizzix Plus has an 8.5 inch wide opening. The Sizzix Pro has a 12 to 13 inch opening. Okay. So depending on which machines you're using is going to have what kind of and size of carrier that you're going to have on how big you can go with your width. With what we're going to do, that's not really an issue, because what I want to show you is more about just layering and how you're cutting it and the way that you're using it. Okay, so I'm going to get into that with a piece of paper that is not a favorite of mine. And I know I won't use again. Okay. So this is my paper. And here's my 12-inch width. How wide this is obviously matters because I can only cut this much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this down to my 6 inches. Actually, I'm going to cut it just a hair smaller because I don't want to curl my edges any. Okay. I'm going to make sure my base plate is down. My cutting plate is down. Then I'm putting my paper. And then I'm going to put my die with the cutting edge down. Okay. Everybody has a different opinion on whether the cutting edge should be down or whether the cutting edge should be up. To me, it makes more sense to do it down because I can physically see what I'm doing. If I'm trying to cut it backwards, then I'm putting the die down first and then the paper, and I can't see where I'm going to cut. So this makes the most sense to me. For this type of paper, because it's not directional, if I cut down the middle, I will get two pieces that have a positive and a negative side for this border. Okay, I will get this as a border, and then I will get this as a border, and then I can take this piece and I can rotate it and use it in a double page layout. If this is directional paper, I cannot do that because then if I turn this piece, I'm going to do a 180-degree turn and it's going to be upside down. So for directional pieces, I actually recommend that you cut to the top and then cut two pieces. But don't forget when you cut your second piece to flip your die so you get a different look. Okay, but in this case, we're working with a simple pattern. It's one that can be flipped upside down. Even though the stars will be upside down, I'm not bothered by that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little piece of tape and I'm going to hold the edge of that die down on my paper. Okay, you can use washi tape, you can use painter's tape, whatever you're comfortable with. My painter's tape is very well used, so it's not as sticky and tacky and it won't rip my papers. Because I put it on my clothes and I've kind of de-stickified it a little bit. All right, so that's that. And then again, here's my clean plate for the top. Okay, I'm just going to square it up here so it's nice and square around. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it through my machine. Okay, oops. The Cuttlebug has a wonderful little suctioning mechanism on the bottom, so it holds the die machine down. Okay, sometimes you're going to hear a really large amount of cracking, and sometimes you won't. That's all going to depend on how much pressure your machine's exerting, how thick your paper is, and also how cut up and destroyed your base cutting piece is. Okay? So then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to take your tape off very carefully so you don't rip your paper, just in case, because it did push it down into the paper. And then you're going to go ahead and remove your two sections. Okay? So now there's a positive and a negative. And so normally for a double page layout, you would flip this like so, and then it would go across both of your pages. But you can see here the stars are pointing up and here the stars are pointing down. That's what we mean about directional paper and getting flipped upside down. So if you don't want that, then you're going to have to cut your paper twice. But in this instance, I just cut it once. If you're just going with a single paper, when you're cutting it once like this, if you have a pattern that's on the back, which I do, it's just a simple pattern, you can layer that onto your piece however you like. Okay? And then you can create different depths and different dimensions doing that. And we do that with all of our different series of dies. There's the wave series. You can layer each of the beach waves with sound waves, with word waves and serenity waves. Whatever you want to do, it'll work. It works all together. That's the whole point of the system. Okay, you can add, if you really want to get decorative and everything else, you can use strips and ribbons, and you can add a strip line here that has a sewn edge, or it has a pierced edge, or it has a photo strip edge. You can do that as well. So we do have different dies in the system that will do that. But for the most part, this is exactly what you're doing. And then you're just going to take your pieces, and I know my paper's not going to match, don't yell. through the screen because I know everybody's going to want to. This is just what I've got kind of handy right now. Is you're going to layer your pieces down. You're going to decide how much or how little you want to have showing. Make sure I'm in frame for you guys. Sorry. I have a habit of getting out of frame. And then you're going to stick this down. Now, I always tell people the way that I recommend you putting this down is to take your bottommost piece and only put your adhesive on this very bottom edge of your piece. Because what that's going to do is it's going to adhere it down to your paper just fine. But what it's also going to allow you to do is to take this one and kind of play a little bit and to decide how much or how little you want to have showing. And it gives you just a little bit of flexibility to do that. And then when you're ready to stick this down, you just put adhesive however and wherever you want and then put it down. Again, if you like tucking things in, like pictures, photos, or anything else like that, like if I were going to put a photo in here, if I wanted to tuck that, I would make sure not to put adhesive on this top edge. I would just go like one here on the sides and then straight down on the bottom again so that I could still have the ability to tuck things into my layouts this way. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And again, it's a very simple, basic layering system that we're doing and a very basic, use your die cutting machine, run the die through and get your papers through however you like. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. You can go on to www.outlawsdies.com, or you can find us on Wix Spaces, and I can chat in our forum. We can chat directly, whichever way you'd like. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy using Outlaws Dies.